Hello, hello, hello. I believe we are live. I think we're even live on Instagram now. So I think I got it figured out. It's hard to link the streaming services, but I believe it's all linked. And I think TikTok has allowed us back. Sai, could you do me a favor and twist up that Japanese maple leaf? Yeah, it'll got me right this second. There. Yeah, just twist it up a little bit more. There we go. Now we can't see that. So hopefully TikTok is still being friendly because we'd love to have a conversation with our TikTok friends. They are just swinging by that room. I do appreciate it. All you people swinging by, hi. All you people swinging by, hi, hi, hi. Stop and visit for 2 seconds. Stop and say hello. We don't get to get on here very much. Oh, thank you for viewing, Hector. Thank you. Thank you for dropping in. We are going to have some fun and talk about some amazing things. We're going to watch an episode of a program that we're putting together. It's called, I'll just play it because I actually want to see how far TikTok will go. Yeah, so without further ado, we are just going to get psilocybin into the mainstream. Playing this. Okay. Boom. We got a great panel of guests to discuss some amazing stuff with us today. We have Jason Burke. Let's just start this over. Hey, thank you, Trip Chocolate. It's nice to see you. Oh, in Portland. We love it. We're out here in Newport. We love it. We're out here in Newport. Okay, so we're going to roll over, play this video, and just we'll work on some other work. And then we'll be back to talk and chat. So make sure to like and follow because we're also doing some giveaways. So make sure to follow on all our platforms, no matter which platform you're on. Boom. Hello, my name is Willie T, and this is CybinSpace, where we're going to be integrating psilocybin into the mainstream. We got a great panel of guests to discuss some amazing stuff with us today. We have Jason Burge in the house with the Psilocybin Assisted Therapy Association. We have James Gilbert with Argyle Payments. We have Jeanette Small with Lucid Cradle. And the infamous Paul Stanford with the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation and Cannabis Common Sense. We have some great friends with our Zoom in today, too. We have Heather Shelton aboard. Say hi, Heather. And Janet Champagne. They're going to be joining us for this conversation on legalization and decriminalization and what that means. What does that mean, Paul?
Well, decriminalization means there's still laws and you can be arrested somehow. And I think that's kind of what we have with psilocybin therapy. Legalization means you can grow it yourself, you can possess it wherever you're at. We don't have that in Oregon, at least not yet. And so that's the difference.
Definitely. Jeanette, could you discuss, what our model is here in Oregon and how it kind of works?
Well, there's a lot to it, but there are a few things that I would like to mention. First and foremost, it is not actually a therapy model. We have an adult use model as of right now. Jason might be able to shed some more light on that.
Yeah, I'd say from the perspective of folks that are looking to come to Oregon or use psilocybin for mental health and that approach, understanding that difference could really be the decision on whether or not they even want to come or they want to use the substances or they want to come to Oregon. Because there is a lot of misconception around are they receiving therapy? What's going to happen? And a lot of questions that we get where people are asking, they're like, oh, I want to come to Oregon because it's legal. And so there's just a constant education and re-educating people that, yeah, we're here, but there is that difference, and that people need to self-educate on what that means for them. And unfortunately, it also means that it could deter them from getting mental health. So for those people that are really looking for mental health, this can be a very important issue because it could affect their livelihoods or their concerns about the livelihoods.
Right. And right now there are only two states that, one has two states that have legalized, but Oregon is currently the only model that's actually out and being represented in the state. Colorado's coming up next. They, of course, did a decriminalization that was not set up for a model, but then they passed a legalization law, and now that's a model. Recently, Governor Newsom in California, he had turned down the model because it was not quite the therapy model, as some are calling it. And these, have lots of problems, like lots of hurdles that we have to overcome. One of these hurdles we got to overcome is, how payment processing and stuff. I mean, because it's still federally banned. James, can you enlighten us a little bit on this?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me, Willie. And I'm James Gilbert, and with Argyle Payments, and we specialize in payment processing solutions. And for us, we work with a number of banks within our network to help achieve legitimate above-board solutions for this industry. And so we're the first to be able to offer payment processing, again, above board, and be able to help help facilitators and service centers get set up, and more importantly, maintain those accounts without them having to worry about account closures due to the type of business that due to the products and services that are offered. So
nice.
It's awesome.
I bet you there was a lot of issues when it was coming up to it on defining what a psilocybin service center is compared to what a facilitator is, and what a manufacturer of mushrooms are, and how this kind of works with the legalities of working with banks. Have you had any issues with this, Jeanette?
Oh my goodness, have I? It has been such a challenge. You're supposed to open a business account with a reputable bank. You're supposed to keep your books the right way. And then you go to a bank and you say, I would like to open an account for my legitimate business. And they go, oh, no, we don't do business with your sector. This is too high risk for us. And I've been finding myself in this situation where, well, I absolutely want to follow the rules and regulations, but who is out there willing to work with us? So I'm really grateful for the work that Argyle is doing, because they're enabling for this industry to evolve into something respectable, something that the customer can really appreciate and trust.
Yeah. It's always been a thing. Paul?
I've actually had a lot of experience starting back in 2007 with medical marijuana banking. I've had my accounts closed 20 different times. Once, they closed 26 accounts at once, some of them political, some of them business, some of them personal. So in those 20 different bank closures, 18 times, they would not tell me why they were closing my bank account. They said, we don't have to tell you why we're closing it. When you sign up for your account, it says we can close your bank account for no reason at all. Only twice have they said it's because you help medical marijuana patients. So obviously I have 20 different stories, but I won't bore you with them right now.
And that's the same thing I came into, same cannabis space. And when I was coming into this, a lot of the classes, I was seeing my fellow classmates, and everybody's, well, I'm just going to go get my Venmo set up. And I'm trying to explain, that the federal laws do not allow for the situation to happen. We might have it legalized here in Oregon under a regulatory model, but most banks are still running with FDIC insurance and stuff, and having to deal with the federal level of being on point.
I'm not sure how it's working with psilocybin facilitators, but I know in the medical or in the marijuana industry, there's only a few banks that will accept accounts. The Marion and Polk County School Credit Union, or MAPS Credit Union, a couple of others, they charge a $500 application fee and a $500 a month account fee. So it's much, much more expensive to do banking in marijuana, I'm sure you're going to run into the same issues with psilocybin industry.
So, Jeanette, the model with psilocybin allows for a facilitator who then goes to a service center who then, receives, their client receives psilocybin. Does the facilitator do anything with psilocybin, physically or?
Well, technically speaking, the facilitator is not allowed to handle the product at all.
Okay.
They're there to interact with the client, to provide safety and support in a non-directional manner, to be able to screen the client, to prepare them, go through the necessary preparation process, and then help them with the integrative process. However, the service center itself is the entity that offers the psilocybin product to the client. So the facilitator never handles the product, and really, our stance on it is the banks should see that and recognize that this is not really, a challenge for the facilitator.
Is that what you guys did over at Argyle? Who are you guys working with, the service centers, or are you working directly with the facilitators?
We're able to work with both, and what we were able to do is we of course did plenty of research on our end and looking at with the Oregon Health Authority, and a big portion of it too is that the facilitators as well as the service centers have been very much on board with presenting all the necessary data and documentation that we would need to present to our banking partners, which allows us to establish the necessary credit policy, which then that's what leads to long-term processing, which is huge because that's the most important thing. You want to, of course, get something established, but more importantly, you want to maintain that. And as long as which we've been able to demonstrate all of the legalities surrounding how the transactions are occurring appropriately, then from there our banking partners are comfortable and they're willing to move forward. And more will come online as time goes, and that's only a benefit to everyone involved, which is excellent.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think, building this framework from the ground up has been a great, connecting service for so many people in this industry. Mushrooms and psilocybin tends to bring us together, and I'm really seeing that here in this space. Jason, when somebody's seeking services, say from out of state or something, what's some of the ideas or processes of making that happen?
Well, a lot of folks when they reach out, questions we're answering, they're looking for mental health, and so even the complexity when we talk about legalization and decriminalization for outside of the facilitators, people looking for the mental health, and even the mental health professionals have a challenge because federally the substances are still illegal, so that affects their licensure, and so you have these weird. So you can have facilitators can be licensed, but a mental health therapist, a licensed individual, can't practice their knowledge during these sessions. So everything's still working on, but it really centers around that decriminalization and hoping that just as we move forward and having like Argyle and James and I were talking of that as this moves into like Colorado and there's more people that are like these new states are coming up, that they'll also think about some of these other business processes to make it easier. Because so much of the emphasis has been put on the facilitators and the service center folks to really move it forward. And so we're kind of just bridging, we're trying to connect everything through there. Where really it's about what's going to be the best for the folks that are seeking this help. And we're still working with that, and it's being creative, and it's educating, and creating the partners so that we can all collaborate around the same thing and learn from each other.
Definitely. Paul, what do you see coming down the pipeline what are some of the similarities you're seeing between the, blossoming, sporing out, mushroom industry compared to the cannabis industry?
There's a lot of similarities. They're both being against federal law, and the banking issues, of course, are a big one. Trying to work with federal law is still a challenge for the marijuana industry, and the federal law changes very, very slowly. So it's great to educate people, and that's obviously what we're trying to do here today.
Definitely. Well, let's bring in some of our Zoom members here. There we go.
My name is Jana Champagne. I'm a cannabis patient who happens to be a nurse, and I've been educating cannabis patients and medical professionals for about a decade. And here I'm down in Medford, so here in Oregon, I've been trailblazing a cannabis inclusive autism care resource, being cannabis inclusive care homes and retreat centers. I'm also a professor at John Patrick University. That's kind of my role. And so I just really see so many similarities between the psilocybin red tape and the cannabis red tape. And I'm just so encouraged to see that those of you trailblazing psilocybin, like Heather Shelton and those of you on the panel, are taking lessons from the struggles that we've had getting cannabis access and appropriate medical guidance for our patients and ensuring we're upholding our medical ethics while also trying to figure out, all of the legislative rules. And I know Heather Shelton can speak more to this, as she's on one of the panels creating some of the legislative rules. So I may actually just let it switch over to her and let her talk more about that.
Hi, so I'm Heather Shelton, newly retired nurse, actually. I think Jason was speaking about the challenges for some of us with professional licenses in addition to working in psilocybin. And after my experience as a nurse working in the cannabis world, I've decided that I was just going to retire my license so that I can fully participate in this, in our new psilocybin program. So talking about banking, we at Epic also ran into these challenges as far as having a service center and being unable to get business bank accounts as well. And we currently have a new structure where we have two companies, and one is our service center, and then one is where we contract with facilitators. And so that's given us a little bit of a way to have some banking, not have everything have to be in cash. So
when it comes to, you know, legalization, like here in Oregon, we seen, huge bursts for like Measure 110 and a lot of, misconstrues of what that means, and, have you guys had any experiences with, dealing with the, balancing what is regulated and, above board to what is not? Has anybody had any experiences with this?
Of course.
Oh, Jeanette?
So many experiences. So one of the challenges that I would like to speak to with the fact that we're in this transition of sort of decriminalizing, legalizing, the fact that we're trying to keep options open for us to figure out how to best provide services. We don't really have best practices established yet. And so with that, a lot of voices are coming to the forefront, and it is difficult to discern which perspectives are more credible, which perspectives are the ones that the public should really be orienting to. I've at least experienced quite a few folks sort of trying to ride the trail, with us and going, well, you know what, there's this legal framework, these guys are working on providing services in this regulated way in which we have all kind of voted for and agreed on. And, well, it's basically exactly the same thing as the underground offerings. And so it diffuses the message. It has been a little bit challenging to communicate to the public what the similarities and differences are between the things that are offered, at different service centers, in retreats that might be out of the country, in the underground space. So we're still kind of developing all of this. This is part of the conversation that we're, having.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that is, I had a lot of experience with the underground and a lot of experience with legalization, especially in Washington State, and I've been working real closely with, some of the board and some of the groups here that works here in Oregon. And I gotta say, to me, I really truly feel, there is, a partnership with the state in this aspect. Like a lot of the rules and structures and framework that they've designed. And I've talked with the head of the board too. They've designed it to be a little bit more open so that we can kind of figure out what that looks like at the end of the day. Because this is going to be a slow rollout program. So it's one of these things where it's like you get in, you accept the partnership with the state, which then you have a partner in the state backing you, especially when it comes to a federal level. And in that partnership with the state, we design the framework. You know, if we just opt out of that framework and we're not working with them, then we're just working against them. And I think Oregon has really taken the ability to, you know, come together and work cohesively, which is kind of new in, you know, my personal aspects. Paul, what do you think about that? Have you had any experience with some of the psilocybin boards and stuff like that, or?
You know, I haven't. I haven't had direct experience with the psilocybin boards, but I've found, you know, the fact that you're licensed by the state has given you protection from federal authorities. I mean, federal authorities could come in and arrest you, but you can plead not guilty and go. So the prosecutors don't want to deal with that. So they're only going to go after someone who is definitely not in compliance with state law.
Yeah. What do you see, like, you know, in your opinion, what's the framework that's going to be kind of set up with the, you know, fighting the federal aspect to, you know, payment processing, banking and stuff? What's some of the, you know, ideas behind separating the two?
Well, the good news about the programs here is, you know, like mentioned, you know, the psilocybin sales are cash sales. You know, that's a cash sales element of it. And so because of that, with our banking partners, looking at it from, you know, being able to offer the therapeutic services and being able to offer, you know, at the centers, the room rentals and all of those aspects of it, those we can certainly support through the network, which has been great. And that's one thing that our banking partner was very, many of our banking partners, of course, are very strong about, is that they want to make sure that the sales are above board and everything is being done within the framework of the, you know, of the way that the program is currently set up, which is crucial.
When a client is coming in and they're going to, you know, take services with, say, a facilitator, how is that payment happening? Is the facilitator taking the whole payment? Is the service center taking things? Are we separating things? You were talking about different companies.
Yeah, we have a different model than it seems like other service centers, where we don't necessarily rent space out to facilitators. We actually contract with certain facilitators, and we have our own wait list, and we kind of fit, you know, we fit folks with their facilitators. So it's a little bit of a different structure than facilitators coming in and renting space. So we do, people are able to pay for the facilitation services online, go through banking, and then for the purchase of their psilocybin and their service center facility fee, that's done in cash in the day of.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy the frameworks we have to, you know, jump through on hoops. I mean, Paul, you know how many hoops we had to jump through with cannabis. You know, it's crazy how many hoops we have to jump through to be able to bring these services to people, and making sure that people are getting the services that they need and they want, and the help that they need and want. Any thoughts on where you guys see legalization, decriminalization going on in the next states or anything like that?
I hope the states, as they're coming in, that they'll continue to learn. And that's where I really hope, is that, you know, it's like, let's have Colorado learn from Oregon, and then the next states learn from the combined, because we're kind of rolling through this process as we go, and there's going to be mistakes. And you mentioned, like, Oregon Psilocybin Services, like, they are advocates for all of this, and they believe in all of it, and they want to partner. And so, you know what I'd say, it's just like, the more that we all can collaborate and partner and be passing that information forward, we're trying to prevent the next states from having those same challenges, because then if the messaging gets clearer and it starts to really, you know, get rid of some of the stigmatization, that's going to help with the legalization. That's going to help with just the general overall, you know, the whole country looking at psilocybin versus just Oregon, where we have a lot more experience. So it's a long process, but the more that we can really collaborate and be moving forward on that, I think that that will really help with that. And this is very bipartisan, and that's really encouraging to see that, of everybody supporting each other.
And I think the state has, you know, whenever you do these type of things, there's always, you know, open comments, where you can, you know, submit your comments, submit your thoughts. I believe, Heather, are you on the RACs? Is that the group you're on, or what part are you on with the consulting with that?
I'm not actually at this time on any of those committees.
Okay.
But I do just want to follow up, Willie, that you had commented about the state, and I have found everyone I've worked with at OPS has been so supportive. You know, when I call and have a question, they're open to questions. They want to know what's happening for us and where we're finding little snags where we need support. And that's actually felt really nice. I mean, part of why I got involved in the beginning is because I had been witnessing what happened when we legalized cannabis recreationally and how the patients got left behind. So I felt really strongly that I wanted to be involved in this way, you know, just to help create a program that's really serving everyone. So, yeah.
That's good stuff. Jana, what's the conversation going on with, you know, you're still a practicing nurse. What's some of the conversations that are happening with nurses in this space?
Actually, just to clarify, I also retired my nursing license last year, and Heather and I retiring our licenses is just a reflection of how little understanding we really have at the nurse regulatory level in this state for anything alternative. They're very punitive and very retaliatory, unfortunately. And we are seeing a shift this year, and I'm actually very hopeful. We had a changeover of the Oregon State Board of Nursing executive director that occurred in September. So she's very new. She's only been there a couple months, but it's Rachel Prusak, who is a former state of Oregon representative, extraordinarily cannabis friendly. She actually introduced SB 3369 that dictated that nurse practitioners could certify for cannabis along with the other additions that they made. And also, it also specifies that nurses can, in fact, educate cannabis patients. And so prior to that, there was a lot of gray area. And in 2019, we actually had to overcome a gag order that the Board of Nursing placed on all Oregon nurses saying that we could not educate patients about cannabis, which is kind of ridiculous. It was an expansion of an omnibus law that specifically only applied to certifying physicians, and they expanded it to cover nurses. So it was kind of an abuse of power on their part. And so now that Rachel Prusak is there and she's cannabis friendly, we are working to get an interpretive statement of SB 3369 and really, really encourage heavily the nursing board to adopt scope of standards for nurses educating cannabis patients in Oregon. I mean, we're inevitably going to interface with them, being that we've had legal access here for 25 years. So it really is just encouraging them and reminding them that we are upheld to medical ethics that are not currently being followed in our mistreatment of cannabis patients in this state. And so that's, you know, I think those are lessons that also transfer over to psilocybin. I think bringing medical ethics into the conversation, you know, it's a big deal. I mean, we have ethics driven into us in nursing school and medical school. Do no harm. For nurses, it's do not administer an unnecessarily harmful medication, which means we're supposed to be doing a risk versus benefit on all of the options for a patient to treat. And we're not doing that. And you know, in fact, I've written an article about how cannabis patients walk into the physician office, they walk out with a signature, and then they're sent to the dispensary. It's likened to going into a pharmacy and eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and no medical knowledge there at all. Very rarely is there anybody that has medical knowledge in a dispensary that can do things like screen the pharmaceuticals for interactions or understand what the research actually supports for that patient's condition. And we do have research supporting that when patients have really competent medical guidance, it improves their health outcomes of cannabis therapy. So all of those things are transferable to psilocybin as far as I can tell. You know, the risk versus benefit and screening for risk factors and helping them to avoid them, you know, care planning, which all of that comes really naturally for nurses.
Definitely, great points. And two, I see, you know, this space, we always get asked too about the insurance, you know, and if you can't really define, you know, what the actual, you know, treatment is, you know, insurances are not covering this either. So, you know, that's another huge area that we need improvement in on this space. And I know something about the cancellations too, because I am constantly getting canceled on accounts as well, Paul. I might have you beat on the 25 though there. No, I'm just joking. and I'm always asking that question to everybody too. When I get shut down in an account And I say to the account, I've always messaged them, and they'll vaguely say, well, you violated our terms and conditions. You violated our community standards. And I'll ask what the community standard is the nature of your business. And we're like, we're just discussing psilocybin. We're just discussing cannabis. We're not actually handing cannabis out to anybody or handing psilocybin out to anybody. And they'll say, well, you can't do that. And I propose the question to them. What about church groups that are anti-cannabis? What about, police unions that are talking against that? You're not canceling their accounts, but you're canceling our accounts just because we're having, a positive conversation. And I think that's one thing we need to continue to have. And I am so thankful for every single one of you folks taking the steps you're taking and all the encouragement. And I just want to thank every single one of you guys. Paul, thank you. And
You're welcome.
James, thank you for the
Thank
work
you.
that Argyle Payments doing. Jeanette pushing through with her facilitation and all the work you're doing, Jason. We love this. And this has been, CybinSpace.
This is the first episode, right?
First episode.
So you've done great for a very first
Episode. Yeah. Give it a for our first episode. So this is our first episode of CybinSpace. You guys can keep tuned in for more. We're going to continue to have this conversation. We invite you to join the conversation. Tune in, bring your questions in, and also make sure to check out our Psilocybin Facilitators Association. You can check that out at pfatrade.com. And we look forward to integrating our true selves with our daily selves. You have a great day.
Will bring that change. It will bring a mind and a body change and bring them back into an alignment, right? It's known as a homeostasis state, right? To where we are bringing our minds and our bodies back into an alignment. And so, understanding, how mushrooms affect us is really what we need to come to terms with. Legalizing it and also bringing it to the forefront is one thing, but understanding how it's working and how it is affecting us is really where we should put some attention into, and coming up with different types of ways to stimulate it. So, which will help us, right, to clarify our minds, clarify our bodies, clarify our way of seeing the world, and help others, right? Because really this is what the journey's about. So.
It definitely is. And two, I think for the longest time there was so much, fear mongering behind mushrooms. I think it's just kind of, been, indoctrinated into us to fear mushrooms because there are so many mushrooms on the wild that you can't eat, Matt, any ideas?
Yeah, well, one of the things that you were saying that really struck me was about psilocybin helping, and other plant medicines helping bring things into alignment. I think one of the most common outcomes I have with my clients is they come into a session, they have their experience, and when they're leaving, the impression I get is they're like, that was really hard, that was difficult and challenging, and I'm not sure if I got anything out of that I didn't already know. And it seems like there's this little touch of maybe disappointment in there. But I always give a few days before we do our first real big integration session. And when I get back in touch and we do our integration, they say, well, even the things that I took away from that experience weren't things that I didn't already know. I find I'm living in a way that's much more in alignment with those truths, and I'm interacting with the world around me and with other people that's much more in alignment with those inner truths that I got in touch with. And so people may come looking for a big mystical experience, but I honestly believe that what we get from the medicine is oftentimes what we need the most at the moment. And a lot of times what we need the most is to live in a way that's in alignment with our inner truth and our higher selves. And so if we're not doing that from the get-go, the first thing the medicine is going to do is say, hey, get in alignment with your truth. And then maybe once you do that, we can move on to the other higher spiritual things.
Definitely. And the thing is that we can integrate herbs, right, into this endocannabinoid system. There's so many things that we can do now because of the existence of this endocannabinoid system. You know, we can figure out the connection between spiritual and human. We can figure out the connection between how we are being stimulated, right, in many different ways that has to do with cannabis, that has to do with mushrooms, you know. The connection, right, was really hard to put together, but now that we have this system, right, it really is the missing puzzle piece. You know, what we are trying to achieve is something to where we are looking to a total body change and a total mental change, right? And in order to do that, we cannot just focus on one system, right? We need to focus on a system that focuses on all systems. Now, the endocannabinoid system is that system that regulates all other systems. So, you know, stimulation is very important in order to create change, right, within ourselves. And, you know, I correspond health between humans and plants, right? We intake the same type of nutritional intake to survive, right? Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, right? And we also have the same pH balance, you know what I'm saying? So when I was a plant grower, right, for 15 years, and so I'm always utilizing on bringing life back into plants. And how I do that is I treat it just like how I would with a sick individual, you know, because I understand that it takes patience and it also takes a hand that knows how to be gentle with it. Now, when we integrate that, we can also integrate the change into ourselves as well by integrating that idea, right, of bringing our ideas from the forefront when it comes to cannabis and mushrooms to the stimulation of how we are being able to change ourselves from within. So stimulation through our endocannabinoid system, through herbal medicine will help to bring focus and clarity to our lives and to where we can change it, you know. Stimulation of chemical balance is really important. So
I think now would be a great time, too, to introduce our Zoom callers. We have Janice Champagne and Heather Shelton on the line, too. You guys want to share some thoughts on this subject of the endocannabinoid system?
I'm going to go first, Heather. I think I went first last time.
Sure. Yeah, you know, first off, I just want to say I think cannabis and psilocybin both really offer us a shift in perception. And in fact, my work with cannabis, you know, I work primarily with people living with cancer, so it's kind of a little more in-depth work that I do. But one of the things I think so incredible about this plant is that when primarily with inhalation, I think is the best method too, it offers us the shift of perception where suddenly we can be here now, right? And when we're here now in the present moment, we really are able to experience gratitude in a different way. And so that's one of the gifts that I really feel cannabis offers us. And I see this in the work with psilocybin as well. And I just want to go back to, I think Matt was talking about preparation, and preparation is so important. And preparation is really when the integration of your experience begins. And so some of the things that we like to offer in preparation are tools, you know, just tools that we can already start to use in our everyday life to bring us more awareness to ourselves, right? Connect us maybe a little bit more to spirit. So, you know, in our Oregon program, folks are required to have one preparation session with a facilitator. And you know, I don't personally feel like that's enough time. There are definitely some folks who are coming in, they've done a lot of personal work. Maybe they've already had some experiences with psilocybin or other psychedelics, and they are really in a place of readiness for this new experience. But, you know, this was also brought up too, is that now this is a legal opportunity and we're having folks from all different walks of life who are coming in and really wanting to have this kind of a shift and a psilocybin experience. And they're so grateful that it's an option and that it's legal, right? Yeah. Most of us, I think probably everyone on our Zoom call, like we've all had some aspect of our life where we've had to be criminal, right? Like we broke the law. We were trying substances before we were allowed to legally, in a sense. But not everybody is open to doing that, right? And so, we've just had a flood of folks from other states and other countries, who are interested in having these opportunities, but it doesn't mean that everybody's ready.
Right.
So the preparation piece is just really critical. In regards to the endocannabinoid system, I mean, I've had a couple of conversations with another friend, Barry, about this. And, at this point, because we're talking about two Schedule 1 illegal substances, there's not a lot of research that's going to support this information yet. However, whenever we've brought ourselves to a place of more calm and our nervous system is more regulated, our endocannabinoid system is going to be functioning better. So I can see how it's certainly psilocybin can affect our endocannabinoid systems and bringing some balance to us, because in an emotional sense, or our mental health may be improved by having those experiences. So I'm looking forward to learning more as the information comes out.
I would like to, you really touched a point there that, I'm going to discuss a little bit too, is, that present moment. I think, we don't give too much thought to actually what that means. And I'll never forget a life-changing moment for me was, understanding that, whenever we're thinking too much about the future, that we're building anxieties. Is this bill going to get paid? Are these people going to like me? And when we get stuck thinking about, well, I wish I would have done this differently, or I wish I could go back to that moment when I was a kid and I had, bowls of cereal or whatever, we're living in a form of regret, and that's why we call the present a present, because if we can find ourselves in these present moments, we're able to actually achieve, happiness, because happiness is not something that could be, held, controlled, sold. It's only in these present moments. And I think that's the beautiful thing of most of, my personal experiences. Sorry if I covered my mic there. My personal experiences with psilocybin is finding myself enjoying my present moments and helping teach others to find that present moment. And I love that. Janet Champagne, you have something to add?
Sure, yeah. So, I just love too that, Heather, you're talking about the present moment, and I'll share a way in which cannabis has impacted my life personally. I have a 21-year-old daughter with autism, and she was pretty severe on the spectrum. She's doing fairly well now, but very minimally able to communicate, by verbal means. And so when I'm able to utilize cannabis and just be with her in that moment, that's sort of her operation system, is to be in this moment and in this, the sensory and energetic. She's so sensitive. She's like an antenna, I tell people. So being under the influence of cannabis and being able to remain in that moment with her actually facilitates that connection with her. And I'm better able to kind of read her signals and she can read mine. And it's just so beautiful to be able to just be with her under the influence of that. And I feel like our connection is so much stronger when we're able to do that. So, it's really about releasing the fears like you talked about, which I think is a major aspect of being a trailblazer. And I see so many trailblazers sitting there on the panel. Paul has been doing this so much longer than we have. And, I feel like, I'm just so grateful that we can kind of pick up the baton and continue this movement, to continue this advocacy, following patient needs as nurses or retired nurses. We're always going to be nurses, no matter whether we have a license or not. And so I feel like it's just so important that we continue this legacy, and bring in the psilocybin and bring in our knowledge of how things have progressed in the cannabis industry and the gaps in our patient care, and ensuring that our facilitators are well educated. I just feel like education is so key. If we can educate our practitioners, we can reach so many more patients than trying to educate one patient at a time. Yeah. So I feel like it's this really collaborative effort that we're all putting in. And just knowing the positive impact, having experienced those impacts ourselves, we can really bring that experience to our patients. And that's so important. And you know, in my life, especially, cannabis has been such a wonderful tool for alleviating the PTSD of being an autism parent. Our PTSD, our trauma levels are likened with that of combat soldiers, especially when our kids have a behavioral crisis in puberty, which is about half of the time. So it's a very common occurrence. So many families are in crisis and they find this easement with cannabis therapy. And I look forward to integrating psilocybin therapy too as I learn more about it. I'm not a personal psilocybin user. I have a lot of sensitivity to anything fungus, so I just haven't ventured into that world, but I feel like it's definitely something that offers a lot of benefits to our patients, and I'm all for supporting patient access and patients having the support they need to really get the most of this therapy.
I am very much with you on that, Jana. I grew up with getting the needles in my back to discover that I was allergic to mold. So, you know, working in a mushroom grow facility, you know, combating mold, and, you know, mold is our enemy. It took a lot of struggle and strive to, you know, get over those fears. Jeanette, I wanted to ask you, you know, when it comes to being present with your client, you know, what's that look like? You know, she was saying one meeting. Is that enough?
I mean, people have very different ideas about that. People work differently. And I think it really depends on the client that is coming in. People come in with different baggage, let's say, with different intentions. The way that I work with my clients is a little bit different. I spend a lot of time with clients. I usually see a client for 3 to 5 days. And then in addition to that, I also meet with them over Zoom or other, you know, platform for several hours, you know, to do a proper preparatory, you know, intake. I want to see my clients in different contexts. I want to really get to know them and for them to get to know me, because I believe that the therapeutic function is really there through the relationship. It is through psychological safety. Now, some people will be able to achieve that psychological safety pretty quickly. They might be more trusting, just dispositionally. They may have suffered less traumatic experiences than maybe some other folks. And then, you know, I work with a lot of combat veterans and first responders and people with complex PTSD. For many people who have gone through so much trauma, what happens is they're not able to just drop into that psychological safety right away. And so it really does take quite a bit of time, and I feel like it's really important to honor that and to give them that support.
Definitely giving them that space. Yeah, and that's, you know, why we're creating this space here, CybinSpace. You know, we invite you folks to join some of our Zoom calls. We're going to be continuing this discussion, continuing to discussion with people on our panel, people who are, you know, on the ground floor here in Oregon, creating the space, creating the service centers, and really, you know, generating what psilocybin services are going to look like rolling out in the next few years. I want to thank everybody on our panel for joining us. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Paul, Jeanette. Thank you, Tone. You guys have been wonderful. Thank Janet Champagne and Heather Shelton. We really appreciate you guys tuning in to this program. Make sure to find us. PFAtrade.com is a great site. Make sure to check out Open Signal. And, you know, our goal, as always, is integrating our true selves with our daily selves. You have a great day.
And that head injury was the result of a car accident as well. So that's what made me think of that story.
Welcome back. This is the third episode of CybinSpace. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to be discussing how to integrate psilocybin into our current society. We got some great panelists. We're ready to talk about this. Welcoming back Anthony. And we have Matt Whistler, Jeanette Small with Lucid Cradle, Paul Stanford with the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation and Cannabis Common Sense. On our Zoom call, we have Jana Champagne and Heather Shelton. We're going to talk more today about our experiences, some of our clients' experiences with psilocybin, and that discussion. Of course, I could talk for days about this one, but I love to get some of you guys' opinion. Paul, you want to start off the conversation?
Back in the 80s, I picked a lot of mushrooms. That's my experience. And so I picked a lot of mushrooms, and I got a number of doses. And I remember I would hear these sounds. They're auditory hallucinations. My cousin and I called it earth music. But when I went to a Grateful Dead show some years later, I saw they kind of imitated that earth music. They could play what I heard during those psilocybin trips. How common are these auditory hallucinations in psilocybin?
I would personally say they were quite common. I recently just had the experience after a car wreck. And, two things was my experience was very visual, very powerful. And at the end of my experience, I could hear the same noise, and it was almost like a metallic vibration.
Sound effects.
Yeah, like a sound effect. And, for me, I could actually feel where my brain was stuttering a little bit, but I could feel like my neural pathways really, massaging those processes open during my experience.
Funny you mention a car wreck. So I did have a client, this was very early on in my facilitation practice, who had suffered a traumatic brain injury, and they had vestibular nerve damage, and they also resulted in atypical migraines. And these atypical migraines would manifest themselves quite often in seizure-like symptoms. And she actually did a wonderful job in preparing me of what to expect, that things that might come up during the session for her. And she also expressed that during these migraines, when she would have these seizure-like symptoms, she couldn't talk, and she would get frustrated that she couldn't talk and couldn't communicate, and that would often start crying as a result. The interesting thing is, in the session, the migraines kicked in. She basically had these seizures throughout the entire session, but she found that she was able to talk and communicate completely fine, just like normal. And afterwards, she actually said she had not experienced those migraines for quite some time after the session, like a much longer period than would normally go by without experiencing those. And she said that she felt like her brain was healing. And so to me, that just reflects also a lot of the neuroplasticity that is created in these experiences. And I'm not a neurologist. She wasn't, getting scanned and all of that during the session. But I would not be at all surprised if, her brain was finding a workaround for those vocal centers and things like that it didn't have previously. And she wants to continue having sessions every 2 or 3 months. She's finding them highly beneficial. And that head injury was the result of a car accident as well. So that's what made me think of that story.
Wow. It is definitely a moving experience, and there's so much could be studied. I mean, I've had, it's fun to have, very visual experiences, but it's also great to have very healing experiences as well. Have you had any great experiences on psilocybin, Jeanette?
Of course, I've had great experiences, and I've had lots of clients who've had great experiences as well. So I would like to kind of share how I think about what psilocybin does in the brain and what it does for us in terms of bringing us into the present moment and opening up opportunities for us to explore the world differently. So the way I think about it is, when we're born, our brains are not really differentiated very much, and we're perceiving the world through all of our senses, but that perception is kind of disorganized. It is sort of, a cacophony of vibrations that we're perceiving through all the different channels. And it is difficult to make sense of that. So when we're looking at very young children, they might get very emotionally responsive to certain stimuli. There's no real consistency and predictability in how they're going to walk through life. And it takes us quite a few years to learn how to limit some of the information that we're receiving into acting through, let's say, a persona, the ego that drives us. This is a very functional way to do this. We need to do this in order to be able to function like an adult, get our work done, make sure to take care of our lives. But then we become really centered around that persona. And sometimes that persona becomes limiting in our daily life. Sometimes the context changes and we go, well, now this persona is not serving me. Psilocybin sets us into a condition temporarily of being much younger in our ability to perceive through our senses. So when we're opening all of those channels, we're once again visiting the self that was there before the persona that we chose as, the primary persona took hold. So this is why we're perceiving things through synesthetic processes. We can, taste colors, we can hear, colors or whatever else. And that allows for us to sort of do like an inventory of the intrapsychic process and to see what might be necessary to bring to the front in that present moment. And that is really profoundly important to our experience as human beings.
When I got started in this, dissolving the ego death was so important, and that's what I had considered in the beginning. And I had even decided to write my final paper on, ending the ego death. We were even going to be at the big trade show. We were going to get a Nerf gun, a Gatling Nerf gun, and write egos and be like, we're killing egos over here. We put that aside because through my personal study and studying the subject, it was not necessarily finding, ending or destroying our egos. It was finding that balance between our egos and how we perceive ourselves with our empathy of others and our love of others. That in my last psilocybin experience, that is exactly what I experienced. I was having a very visual experience. And I'll never forget, because I had this moment where I'd come out of my experience and I seen a mosquito, and I hate mosquitoes. I'm from the South. We don't like mosquitoes. And I seen this mosquito, and this mosquito was flying, and I could see it. And all I could think of was actually having the empathy for the mosquito and not killing the mosquito because it's just trying to survive too. And that was just an overwhelming sense of, where that ego starts to dissolve and you start to see the world and everybody that's in it as one whole being and one whole being to this. Would any of our Zoom participants love to participate in this conversation?
Yeah, Willie, because what you were just speaking to about empathy, something that I see with folks and I really try to bring into integration is compassion, and not just compassion for others, because for some reason in this human condition, it's so hard for us to have compassion for ourselves, for being human, for screwing up, for, making bad choices, for doing all of these things that we end up feeling like we're not good people for, or I didn't do that the right way, So psilocybin kind of gives you this, it's an opportunity to actually feel some self-love, and my last experience, that was my intention, right? For me, my intentions are, what do the mushrooms have to teach me today? And then I want to experience self-love. And a huge part of that is self-compassion. And so that's something that I like to, since we're talking a little bit about integration here too, to really bring into integration and remind, just a gentle reminder, we are all human. Let's be kind to ourselves like we are to other people. So I do believe psilocybin offers that in the empathy for others and even mosquitoes, and also hopefully for ourselves too.
That's a great point. For yourself, that was another experience I had gone through. And I was struggling with, overcoming some of, am I even fit for this space? And, what makes me okay to be in this space? And in doing so, I found, with the psilocybin has showed me that all of the struggles I had from when I was a youth, that I was still beating myself up, 25 years later over. You know, I had never actually found that self-love to forgive myself, and it was in a psilocybin session, and it hit like it was almost like, you know, the flashing of a camera where the bulb blows up, you know, and you know, I actually had that moment of forgiving myself, you know, for my past, and it was a very eye-opening experience personally. And it was a psilocybin session, a personal psilocybin session, because I had done many psilocybin sessions with many peoples and groups and all of this and fun nights, and you know, back when, you know, that was kind of illegal. But I had, you know, the joke was always 5 grams in the closet, so I took 5 grams in a tiny little apartment next to the ocean, and and it worked. So you know those experiences ourselves as facilitators, you know, help us, you know, help people find their journey, because you know, once again, we take, as a facilitator, we take that non-directive approach. And one of the things in our class that was so beautifully, a beautiful segment I had learned in our class was, you know, a doctor does not repair our skin. You know, when we get a gash or cut, you know, a doctor is not the one who's, you know, repairing ourselves. You know, what they'll do is they'll clean it up, they'll sew it together, they'll make sure there's no, you know, buildup of bacteria that gets infected. But it's our own bodies that heal ourselves. And the same is similar with our minds. You know, our own minds can help heal ourselves. And that's a beautiful thing.
Mushrooms, especially psilocybin, right? We're all looking for a matter of change. We get to a point in our life where where we'll start to think of ways to change ourselves. Mushrooms will bring the perspective of many perspectives, right? And that right there is a significant moment of change. And so what we want to try to do is we want to harness, right, this perspectives and see things in a different way. I wanted to take it back to what she was talking about as you start to grow, right? And, you know, as we start to grow, we develop patterns. And when we start off young, we have a lot of neurons that are connected, right? And just like children, they soak information. These neurons want to take it all in. And yeah, and so as we start to get older, right, certain neurons, we put ourselves in different patterns, right? And then we utilize only what we need, right? So others are starting to die off, and we incorporate only what we need, right? So mushrooms, right, will bring out those neurons that were in that pattern of where we, you know, disregarded them, and bring out a new way of seeing things, right? So it'll bring back that childlike grasp of information, of wanting to grasp information. And so the stimulation that mushrooms bring will bring a change from a deeper perspective to where you can see things as an observation from the outside of yourself, right? Not just from one angle, but from many different angles, so that you can fix the many different things that you want to fix within yourself. Stimulation is what we need in our herbal medicines, and basically everything that we are trying to see in incorporating our minds to see things different, right? And mushrooms will bring that. It has 1,000, I call it 1,000 perspectives, right? And 1,000 perspectives of seeing many different things. The taking into perspective of being kind to yourself is one of them. You know, we are not looking for leaps and bounds. We are taking steps, and these steps are foundational steps. These are foundational steps to where we're not going to fall back, right? Mushrooms give us the agility to move forward, you know, and we want to stay in that motion. So, you know, we have to sometimes look into small doses of microdosing so that we can gain the concept of building ourselves even more. You know, we talk about big dosages, right? And then it lasts for a moment and a matter, right? And in doing those matters of moments, right, we see perspectives, right? But if we were to limit it, right, take it into small doses every single day, we're opening blockages within our minds, preparing our bodies for the environments that that we're being put into, like right now, right? And so being that my mind is stimulated, right? It's overriding the factor of me being here and preparing my body for this environment that I'm in. So it gets rid of anxiety, depression. These are different things that hold us back from our true potential.
You're so overwhelmed with all these thoughts during an experience. It's almost when you come out of it and you're trying to tell your friends the experience you have, you feel like that little kid that's like, saying so much, but it makes no sense. Jana Champagne, you had something to add to the conversation?
Yes, of course. And so I'm actually a student of herbalism right now. I'm in Heather Shelton's course, then we graduate in December. So I'm
Nice.
after being in the cannabis industry as a nurse and a patient and medical professional educator for a decade, I'm really starting to expand into all of the plant medicine and just finding that there's powerful synergy
Yes.
when we are using the correct plants or the correct combination of
Yes.
plants,
Yes.
really targeted specifically for that patient's needs.
Right.
Not yet a psilocybin facilitator. That may be my next step. But I do know plenty of people that are using psilocybin and have just seen some amazing results in them. Probably the most prolific case I can think of is a very good friend recently had a really substantial trauma, and it was caused by betrayal and resulted in a breach in his family, and he lost his only living sibling through that disagreement. And he was just forlorn. There was huge financial impact for him, basically lost his life savings, and he was basically suicidal. He did not see much of a reason to continue, aside from his daughter that he has. I think that's the reason he made it through, honestly.
Right.
And, partway through, he was a cannabis user in the cannabis industry. He began microdosing psilocybin.
Yeah.
And he had done EMDR therapy, which is really renowned for helping people overcome trauma and PTSD.
Yeah.
And it just was not enough. But once he
No.
started the psilocybin, I saw a real
Little
shift.
by little. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a shift in his mindset, and he
Yeah.
began. He had quality of life again. He seemed to have motivation to continue living. His optimism began to come back. His self-love, his self-care, his self-forgiving, all of those motives you guys were talking about, all of those motifs, re-engaged in his life and really came into a spiritual state of non-attachment, which I think is so important. I think so much of the resistance that we respond to in certain life events is a big part of why we make it so hard. And I've experienced this myself, through a pretty profound illness about a decade ago. I learned some of these themes of non-attachment and ego surrender, like you were talking about, Willie. And I used to joke with people that I was stripped down to my core, lost almost everything, and had to rebuild from that rubble. And what that does to your ego transformation is just really profound.
Yeah.
And so I definitely see the potential of psilocybin to help facilitate that for people, minus the health crisis.
Yeah.
So I think it's really powerful what we can bring to this population that is in so much need. I mean, we know that mental health is at crisis levels, especially in our younger population. I just heard recently that nurses and medical professional suicides are at all-time highs after COVID and all the PTSD that brought to frontline workers. If we could just educate them and help them understand the potential benefits for themselves and really set up the regulatory structure and the legislative structure to allow those suffering, specifically medical professionals, many of who are still drug tested and can't utilize plant medicine freely like they should be able to.
Right.
Those are really actionable things we can do and make a huge impact in those that are suffering. So.
One of my most moving stories was an interview I had done with this person, and it was her grandfather had a very incurable cancer, and he wanted to do the interview, and I was really looking forward to seeing what he was going to say on how psilocybin was helping, and that's exactly how it helped him, was just that understanding that this was not everything and all, and that you should enjoy these moments that he does have, even though it's pretty much uncurable. There's no chance. But in the psilocybin sessions, he was able to find himself to be able to find that courage to just hang out with his granddaughter while he is here. And it's done a wonder for their relationships. And in doing so, it has extended, his date, ticker went and passed, and he's still, enjoying life to the fullest. And I think that's something that is, misconstrued. Like, we hear it all the time, as facilitators, can you cure my anxiety? I'm like, if you have $1 billion, but the reality is, yeah, the reality is, there's no, there's no magical pill. It's always having to do the work on self, your inner self, your shadow self, and that's how, we achieve these goals when we do these sessions. And that's something that you got to go into these sessions, understanding and knowing, yeah.
One more quick thing, if you don't mind. I wanted to reference back to what Paul said earlier about being able to hear the plants. And there's actually a device on the market. It's called Plant Wave, and I'm not a salesperson for them or anything, but you can actually connect this device to a plant.
Plant Wave.
And it makes sound waves based on the plant's biochemical,
bioelectric stimulation.
So you have to wonder if it's just a shift in our sensory system that allows us to tune into that the psilocybin facilitates. Really interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a communication between mushrooms, and so we interact towards that. Yeah, that's very interesting. I've been studying on that actually.
Yeah.
And
cool.
because the thing is that through that type of idea, right? It's just through an idea, right? We're looking at a new way of type of healing, if you know what I'm saying, through these electromagnetic pulsing, the communication that mushrooms have, they have high electromagnetic pulsings. And so when they enter the body, right? And our bodies are 90% water, right? Or so they say, but but when we put it into our body, right, electricity, water, stimulation, we're really opening up new ideas and new ways of seeing the world. So, bringing yourself into a knowing, right, is about opening yourself up to new ideas. And so mushrooms, psilocybin especially, will help you to change the factor of your life by seeing things through many perspectives, and it will help you to become a better individual. Because right now in this world, it's all about our own individualism, right? And us bringing in the order and keeping out the chaos. So it will help to segregate these ideas, right? And then that way you can decide which ideas to bring within you. So
I think too, the symbiosis, like when it comes to growing mushrooms, cubensis, is one of the mushrooms that can grow with humans. Humans do help cubensis grow. And there's so many other mushrooms that do not have relationships with humans, like Amanita muscaria requires the symbiotic relationship between trees for it to grow and flourish. And I think, in some higher divine, just asking questions here, I think there's a question that evolves around, like, is the mushroom conversation bringing us a symbiosis with ourselves, with our earth, with our nature, with that dumb mosquito that wanted to suck my blood, and that symbiotic relationship of caring for one another, and not just us as humans, but caring for our plants, our species.
I wanted to kind of speak to what you've spoken to, Anthony, before. I get a lot of questions about, does this work for this? Does it not work for this? And the way that the conversation goes is really through a binary engagement. There is a disease and we can cure it. There's a problem and I can solve it. Whereas the actual answer, from my experience working with clients and having experienced psilocybin myself, It's really about opening yourself up to the multifaceted way that we're perceiving ourselves and the world around us. And so all of the things that we have all spoken to, they all really do matter. We are not outside of nature. We're not an individual that is devoid of the contextual environment in which we are evolving. So we're not alone. We breathe the air, we eat the food, all the things that you've been speaking to, right? So psilocybin allows us to enter into the space of perceiving things through a multifaceted, cacophony of vibrations of existence.
Yeah.
And that allows for us to find, what is the ultimate path that resonates with me? What is my true self? Who am I really? And what is it that I want to get out of life? And I think that's when we connect with that piece of ourselves, a lot of things sort of fall into place. So it's really not so much about, does this cure this? Does it cure that? It's more an adjustment into an easier, more attuned way of being in the world.
I think it really is. Matt?
I was just going to say, one of the things that really strikes me is we're talking about listening to plants, and I spent a little bit of time in South America working with traditional practitioners, shamans, and they can walk around in the jungle and, oh, this plant is good for treating, now they'll even say this kind of virus, and this plant is good for treating this kind of condition. And if you ask them, well, how did you come to know that? And they say, oh, well, the plants tell us.
Yeah.
You just have to listen to the plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get follow-up where, for good and bad a lot of times, pharmaceutical companies come in, but then they test these plants and they find, oh yeah, this actually does work and substantiates what these traditional practitioners are saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think, and that nature connectivity, I think, is really it's amazing. I mean, when I first started out in my working life, I've done a lot of different jobs, but I used to work on endangered species recovery programs, and that was my original draw to working with psilocybin, was just through that reinforcing of that nature connectivity. And the further we remove ourselves from that, the sicker we become as people, as society. There's absolutely symbiotic relationships between the effects of psilocybin and just spending time in nature. Psilocybin dampens the default mode network, allows you to develop new pathways. Time in nature also dampens the default mode network and strengthens new pathways. So that's like part of every integration I have with clients. I'm like, spend time in nature,
really
whatever that looks like, whether it's go for a hike or walk around your neighborhood and just see the trees.
The stimulation
and
is
name
a lot
three
different.
things that you admire about
thing.
that tree.
And that was, my last experience was very visual. It's like I walked into a boardroom with psilocybin cubensis, and psilocybin cubensis looked me in the eye and said, I've risked a lot on human beings. You better get it right. You better make sure to integrate your true selves with your daily selves. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure to check us out on pfatrade.com. Thank you for all the members of the panel, for Janet Champagne, Heather Shelton tuning in through Zoom. Be on the lookout. Maybe you guys can contribute your thoughts and questions to what we're doing here. And we want to thank you for coming into this space. And y'all have a wonderful day. What up? It's me. I'm live, Willie T, today, coming at you. Oh, I don't like how that. Let's see. Let's just turn that little box off. So you ain't got to see like two versions of me. Let's see here. Cameras. Webcam off. Off? No? Why? Why? Oh. There it is. Ha! Alright. Got that thing to be off. I think we could turn these off too. No? We could turn those off. Nope. Alright. Still getting the hang of this new little system here. So, hello. Welcome. I go live once a day. Try to go live once a day. I think we missed yesterday. Just got a little too busy. But we go live. Soon we'll start trying to do it at a specific time. We're trying to do like noon specifically, but just with everything the way it works right now, there's just so much going on. Different meetings and clients and all that good stuff. So it's really hard to pin it down. But we'll make sure we go live when we can. Hopefully the audio is coming through. It looks like audio is working through well. Looks like everything's on. And I even have my mushrooms dancing with me. Okay, yeah, yep, you see it. You see it, dancing mushrooms. That's what we do here, because we got a lot of mushroom love around here. So, yeah, good to see y'all. So, a couple first shows, I was coming in hot, right? That's the song, you know, coming in hot, right? Get demonetized here. And that's just the nature of who I am, you know? I have always been a salesperson since before I knew I was a salesperson. You know, well, my history, like I was winning the contest for who could sell the most candy bars at school. I was winning that often. One year, I actually outsold the winner, and the teacher had noticed. One of the teachers had noticed, but the school had awarded this other kid as the number one seller, even though I had sold way more bars than him. So the teacher ended up buying me a bicycle, and I thought that was like just a great memory that I personally had. And I never had a bicycle until then, so that was pretty cool. So I rode the hell out of that bicycle. That's not completely true. I had bicycles before then, but nobody ever bought or gave me one. Yeah, I was a troubled kid. All right. And that's the thing is, you know, we all have the stories, and that's why we're doing this channel, is to share our stories. And not just for me to share my stories with you. I also do this for my loved ones. I'm going to be sharing a lot of the stories of myself through this channel. So my loved ones have something to see as they grow up, and to know that I love them, and hear the stories that made me who I am, made me do the things I do, because it's been a long journey, you know, a lot of pain and turmoil that I wasn't really aware of when I was younger, that manifest into just blind rage, you know. America's Most Wanted, you know, menace to society, like, you know, that was me before. When I was 24, I didn't think I was ever going to see the age of 24. I thought by 24 I was gone. And obviously I've seen well past that now, and I've been able to grow a lot and overcome a lot of my issues that haunted me, you know. In one of the earlier programs I had mentioned, you know, my distrust in the police. You know, this came from being a young man, being, you know, homeless, and, you know, being constantly harassed, taking, all of my possessions, claiming that they were stolen, and putting them in the evidence and keeping them in evidence for months on months on months, while I'm constantly trying to get these items back. These are my school books for school, because I was in an alternative school. I think I was only 15 or 16 at the time. The very few clothes I had, and I could never get those back. And finally, they told me that they had destroyed them. And a lot of these things, built up over the years. And then once I got into activism and became a cannabis activist, they just kind of overcame. And eventually, I was able to sit down and have enough conversations and understandings with people that I started to see them for their humanity, And that's what a lot of this is about. A lot of this is about just opening up the space. So I like to invite anybody to join us. You can join digitally. Tell your stories. We love to hear your stories. We love to hear stories about overcoming difficult moments in our lives, and mainly finding that balance. Like today, we're so, we have such narratives that we're so pinned to different ideologies that we're stuck in this moments of like, what ideology is that? What ideology are you? You think this way, so you must think this way about this. You think that way, so you must think about this way. And I think when we start opening up the conversations and having more moments where we're sharing ideas, discussing, issues that we feel strongly about, and then furthermore, taking the time to listen, but not just listen to respond. Listen to understand. Listen to hear and have an empathy for the people we're hearing from, And if we can do that, it's not that we have to completely change the way someone else thinks about something or anything like that. It's just finding that balance of what they're saying, the balance of everything. Not everything is so this way or that way, inherently good or inherently evil. Life is, an array of grays. It's an array of colors. And there's so many different ways we can solve issues in our world. We can talk about different things and understand more from each other. It's when we shut down and we don't listen to one another and we just instantly excuse someone else because we feel their ideologies don't, correspond with mine, that we get turned away and we don't have these conversations. And then with current social media and algorithms, we end up stuck in silos where we're just constantly surrounded by the people that would agree with us, because that's what keeps us engaged to their platform. And or another way to stay engaged to the platform, though, is also showing you things that are going out of control, because you tend to watch that stuff. We tend to watch that stuff. I tend to watch it. Everybody does. And so having these open conversations and allowing spaces to have open conversations, I think, is important. It's one of the tenets for our Psilocybin Facilitators Association. We host a meeting every weekend, and some weekends, we don't have anybody show up. Some weeks we have 15, 16 people show up. The idea is having that space always available. So when you are having that bad day, you can show up, and you're going to know people are going to listen to you. And you're going to know that they're not only just going to listen so they can respond, they're actually going to hear what you say and, and feel and have that empathy for you. And sometimes that's what it's about. And so that's what we strive to do here. So I appreciate you guys tuning in on any one of our platforms. You can find us on YouTube, right? Oh, see, here I go, doing the sales pitchy thing. What I was mentioning earlier was I'm really trying to get away from that. I know, um, being super animated, coming in, what's up? We're live. Is fun and exciting, but I want to have some real conversations. I want to have some real conversations about the state of our world. I want to have some real conversations about the potentials of psilocybin in healing. And I want to have some real conversations about, what it means to be on this planet. And when I say that, I know that some people go, "Oh, he's going to be talking about that climate change." Oh, that's one of those red button push issues that, you push that button or the red one or the blue one. Which one do you push? And I think this is a conversation that needs to be had by all, even if you don't believe in it, even if you don't believe it's man-made or this or that. There's different aspects to it that you have to step out and look at it and be like, listen, yeah, plastics are everywhere. Like, you don't have to go very far from where I'm at right now and just take a couple sand, buckets full and find out how much plastic is just in that. And so that's an important conversation to have. Plus, I have little ones. My son goes to the beach and picks up garbage for fun. That's his fun. He likes to pick up garbage. I should have had the clip because he has a beautiful clip. It was one of our test ones. You might be able to find it on one of our pages. I don't think I deleted it because he was so cute. He actually said it. He had a message for everybody to pick up your dog poop and take it with you and put it in the garbage. Because, these are the small things that we care about, And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things you guys care about. And I'm open to have these conversations because what we do over here in Oregon, I'm a licensed psilocybin service provider. That means I went to school, I graduated, I was approved by the state, I was approved to open my service center, which is kind of what I want to highlight today, is how blessed I was to have my service center open separately from, but still in the same space as our head shop. It brings joy to me to think that I'm an actual head shop you can actually do for real psilocybin at legally in Oregon, and with the conversation and news coming out with, a lot of fake products out there, it's really beautiful thing to be because a lot of fake products are on the market that are, trying to get into this conversation, but what they're trying to do is just push a small microdose, so you hopefully buy more, but our goal in our services is to really dive down deep and hopefully find the pieces that you're not aware are causing the issues. Like my own story, for instance, I grew up in the South. I was a young Southern boy. I was definitely the minority in my class. I didn't know this. We didn't see it like that, I just had some great friends, and I love life. And one day, my dad picked me up from school, and he told me, he said, you see, I was always getting sick from living in the South. I'm just always sick up here now, and I know why. I went to Tennessee, and they used this big needle thing, and they were poking my back to find out all the things I was allergic to. One of those things were mold, dust, and cats. And I like cats, but get me around a cat, and I'm dying, And so they tested me. They showed that I was allergic to mold. So my dad says, hey, you want to move up north where there's not that much mold? You'll be fine. And I'm like, yeah, this would be great. And then he's like, okay, cool. Well, pack your shit. Let's go. We're going now, And in that moment, I was like, okay, packed up everything. We took off. I left a box of my toys. I don't know why. I guess I was still playing with them or something, but I left them in the room accidentally. And so I left all my toys behind, right? And I was just young. I was like 8 or 9 years old, right? And for years, I was always upset about really the toys, you know, and I ended up getting in a lot of trouble. Became kind of a troublemaker in my teenage years. Ended up getting caught for being a troublemaker, like serious troublemaker. I mean, I was 12 years old and we were stealing coats from college kids and running their credit cards at restaurants and to buy Legos. Like, that's how bad it was, you know. And when I got caught, I'll never forget, because in my mind I was like, you know, all these people are gonna, you know, feel bad because your dad's gone. So use it, right? And I did. I felt like at 12, like I was using it. I was like, oh yeah, no, my dad's gone. That's why I'm so angry. And I didn't really know at the time, like that was true. It was truth. You know, I thought I was using it just to get out of trouble, but it actually was the real truth. You know, I was really hurt. I was really feeling abandoned. You know, my childhood was pretty much gone in an instant, overnight. You know, and you know, we went from, you know, my dad having this box of Ninja Turtles, you know, the most prized possession you could have, to, you know, used books for Christmas. You know, we got one of those aircraft carriers, which I just absolutely adored, but it actually had nothing in it. You know, it had no jets or no nothing. It had like 2 little army men. You know, so like, you know, we were growing up really poor, and I was feeling very abandoned, you know, by these issues. And I didn't realize, you know, at that time, it wasn't until I was 35 years old and proceeded to start taking psychedelics drastically. I was just trying to forget who I was. I was trying to permanently alter me, or possibly, you know, you know, please get help if you need it. But I was, you know, trying to do something, and it never happened, because these things don't work like that. But through those sessions, through those moments with myself, I started to really find myself, and I started to unravel those deep-rooted feelings of abandonment, and started to realize that a lot of my issues, my distrust for people, my the way I would cut people off, or the way that I would push people away who loved me, all came from just those feelings of abandonment. And those feelings are something I could never really get rid of. It wasn't something that I could just remove. You know, pain, you know, different pains last, you know, forever. But if you, you know, keep going forward, and you understand what the pain is, it doesn't then control you, because the pain still exists, but now it's how you interact to the pain. And when you know what the pain is, and you know where the pain is coming from, you're able to circumvent it a little bit better. You know, in my older age, I've had moments where I was feeling some kind of way because of, you know, specific deals or different things that were going down. And those pains came up inside of me. And I'll never forget my lady kind of looking at me and being like, hey, you know, well, why you feel this way, or you feel so bad? And, you know, she's hypothesizing all the reasons why I felt so bad. And I just straight up, like, I know I feel bad because I feel like I'm being abandoned here, and I have abandonment issues, and therefore it's got me off, you know. And it's going to have me off for a day, you know, but I'll be back. And within a day or two, I got it back together. Things are moving forward. And it no longer was like taking big chunks of my life. And that's how we get over these things. Like, that's how we learn to adapt to them. And, you know, that's what I was able to gain through my own psychedelic experiences, was, you know, having an understanding. One of the things that even recently that I understood through a recent experience. I mean, less than a year ago, was a deep understanding of my father actually loving me, because that was another thing I didn't really think of. Well, if he left, well, he probably didn't love me, right? And inside of a LSD experience, I had, I just went right back to a moment where, we were on a battleship together, and I could actually see him in the tube of the thing. And I know this because I know that picture exists. Like, I've seen that picture of my face looking that he had took, through the thing. And so through that psychedelic experience, I was now seeing his face. Like, I was back in that moment where I could see him, and I could see the love he had for me. And I must have sounded like a crazy man because I was laughing and I was crying and I was laughing and crying because I was coming to terms with this, and I was laughing about how stupid I was to think that my Ninja Turtles was such a part of this, that losing my toys was such an important part that my child, and it really wasn't. Deep down inside, the bottom line was I thought my dad didn't love me, and laughing at the fact that, like, how can you even feel that way, and knowing that the things he bought me was his way of showing it. And yeah, how he got them was illegitimate, and that's why, he was on the run. That's why we had to move all of a sudden at night, because my dad was on the run. He was not a very good guy in that sense. He made a lot of mistakes, and he had to serve his time for them, and they eventually caught him, and he got out, and we found out he was buried a few weeks after, which broke my heart, because that was also when I asked my grandmother a couple weeks before she passed away what some of her happier moments in her life was. And not unfortunately, but the two things she brought up was when she lost her husband Lear, which would have been my grandpa, and then when we went looking for my father's grave. And we searched all over that graveyard trying to find his headstone. And so that was her memory, and she remembered that in her passing. And so, yeah, the laughter I got from that experience, thinking like, oh my gosh, I thought it was this one thing, but really deep down inside, it was something completely different. And that's what the psychedelics showed me, And it's not just psychedelics. I'm not here to preach like psychedelics is the only way to achieve this. Like, you can achieve this from just deep thought. Go spend 3 days in the woods and just be in deep thought. Some can achieve it through prayer, meditation, different other ways. Some of us prefer, and we've had these experiences psychedelically, and that's how I've achieved mine. And they were really healing. And from those moments, now I could heal. Now I can know, what's triggering me. And it's the trigger, because what happens is, scientifically, we have this part of our brains called the default mode network, and the default mode network is a wonderful piece. I want to show this, so I'm going to try to pop this open and get just get an image here. I can't spell neuro pathways. There we go. Oh, come on. He's got a lot of great talks. You can definitely find it out. Let's see. Let's try this. Let's try different things. Brain on psychedelics. Let's do this. Okay. All right, here it is. Come on. Don't have to show you guys like, gosh, this is a long story. Okay, here it is. And then we will move it over here. There it is. Okay, and then we're going to click on this. Boom. All right. So, what we have here is a study done by Robin Carhart Harris. You can always look this up. And this is the visualization of connections of the brain of a person on psilocybin and a person who's not given the drug. And they did a study. So the beautiful thing to see in this is on the left here is the brain has neural pathways, and we tend to run these neural pathways regularly. Like this is what's known as the default mode network. And the default mode network, it's great because what it does is it houses how we protect ourselves. The default mode network also houses how we see ourselves and how we see others seeing us. Okay? And the beautiful thing that happens during a psychedelic experience is this default mode network kind of goes to sleep. Once that happens, our brain starts talking to different parts. Now, there are just as many lines on the left as there is on the right. But what's happening on the right is now your brain is talking to all of its parts. Different parts are talking to different parts that normally don't talk. And that makes for some fun stuff like, smelling colors or feeling sounds. But what it also does is it gives us the ability to see things from a different perspective, a different understanding, and really truly thinking about it through a different perspective. Because our default mode network definitely protects us. When we were younger and we were, there we go. And when we were younger and we had these things like my personal abandonment, that created a wall. And that wall was there to protect me. And so whenever something would arise where my brain would say, hey, this is kind of like when you got abandoned, it would throw up a trigger. It would throw up a protective layer, a protective barrier. Fight or flight, fight or flight, fight, flight, or freeze. And that's what would happen. And so inside discovering these things and discovering what our barriers are in our default mode network, we're able to really kind of get a better grasp in finding that balance from those struggles. And that's what's beautiful. I also wanted to pull up another image that I thought was kind of great here. Let's see, right here. It's on this open page right here. But yeah, so that's the actual study. And I can't ever say this. I'm not, unfortunately, that's out of my scientific privy. Plus, most of the words. This is something you're gonna have to get used for me, okay? I'm just gonna tell you guys this straight up. I did not grow up around educated people, okay? I grew up around very poor areas. Most families couldn't make median incomes. So a lot of the words I used was when I was young and dumb, found myself in prison for a gun possession charge. And I read the dictionary. And so I learned a lot of these words through the dictionary. The problem is I had no one to pronunciate these for me. See, I can't even say pronunciate correctly. So there's a lot of words I'm familiar with, and I don't know how to actually properly say them. I'm getting a lot better at this, but it happens. So this is one of those words, the Yeah, I mean, I can't even. It's a joke. Come on. We could split this up and laugh about this later. The Babla, the Gada, blah, 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 whatever. All right, but you can see it right there. There's the back part of the brain. And that is, you can come in, and that is, that is an important part of our brain. That's where it houses our default mode network. It's one of the oldest parts of our brain. And what it does is it protects us, If it's also how we know how to walk, right? So if you start, you don't have to think about how to walk. You don't have to think, like, let me extend my leg, push forward and bounce, get the knee to bounce, right? We just walk. But the same thing happens for, like, if we were walking in the clearing and all of a sudden there was a big opening and there was a lion there. If we sat there and we said to ourselves, ooh, look, there's a lion there. Oh, let me remember, back in the day, I remember my neighbor got eaten by a lion. That was pretty horrific. I should probably run. Well, how do I run? I'm going to extend my foot out. I'm going to push forward with my knee. By then, you're already getting ate by the lion. Lion done already ate you. So that's where the default mode network kicks in. Run from the lion. You know the lion's there. And this is housed in us modernly with more simpler problems. Instead of your friend getting eaten by a lion, when you're 5 years old, your friend moves away, To us as adults, it don't seem like a big deal. To a child, that's the world. Your world just left. That can be the beginning of a trigger, of a block, that's going to have your default mode network running a specific way. So back to the image. That's what it is. Right there is the brain lit up. You can see how the brain is talking to different areas of the brain that are more open, more wide, and a lot of beautiful things happen when under the psychedelic experience, and that's what's going on there. If you ever get a chance to, this is Robin Carhart Harris. Please take a look at his TED Talk. I think we could actually play it. They might give me a little strike, but I don't care. Information is good. And, once again, go to TED Talks, support their page. You guys, they got some great stuff. But let me make sure that you guys can actually hear this. Let's see, audio, doing my switch here, and doing this, and, oh, I was trying to push the play button on the wrong screen. Okay. That was probably so loud, I'm sorry.
It's easy to be captivated by the world out there. It's a fascinating place. It's deserving of this attention. But what if we were to invert our focus and look inside? What would we find?
No.
Well, I study psychedelic drugs for a living, and the reason why I do this, apart from good fortune, is because I think they're special. And the reason why I think they're special is that I believe they have a unique ability to reveal to us the very depths of our minds. Dreams and perhaps a select few other states may hint at what lies beyond the reaches of normal consciousness. But psychedelics, in my view, are really unrivaled in their ability to do this. Now, many of you will be familiar with the word psychedelic, but I doubt so many of you are familiar with its origins or what it means. So psychedelic was a word that was coined in the 1950s by the British psychiatrist Humphrey Osmond with reference to this class of drugs that I study. And it combines two Greek words, psyche and delos, which when put together mean to make the mind manifest or to reveal the soul. Now, I've been fascinated by psychology for most of my adult life, but one question that has always bugged me is why can't it prove the existence of the unconscious mind? Is it because it doesn't exist? Or is it because it's especially difficult to see? Now, I've come to believe quite strongly that it's the latter, but then the key question is, how can we make it easier to see? Freud famously told us about dreams, how they're a window in on the unconscious, a royal road. But the problem is dreaming happens while we're asleep. And then when we wake up, all we're left with is this flimsy memory of what we actually experienced. So it was while I was studying for my master's that I found myself asking whether a drug exists that can facilitate access to the unconscious mind. I did a brief library search and I came across this book, Realms of the Human Unconscious, Observations from LSD Research, written by the Czech psychiatrist Stanislav Grof in 1975. So I swiftly took this book out of the library, I brought it back to my room, I opened it, and I read. Many of the phenomena in these LSD sessions could be understood in psychological and psychoanalytic terms. They had a structure not dissimilar to that of dreams. And Freud once said of dreams that they are a royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious mind, but to an even greater degree, this seems to be true for the LSD experience. And then finally, the capacity of psychedelic drugs to exteriorize otherwise invisible phenomena and make them the subject of scientific investigation gives these substances a unique potential as research tools for the exploration of the human mind. It does not seem inappropriate or an exaggeration to compare their potential significance for psychiatry and to psychology to that of the microscope for medicine or the telescope for astronomy. So as you can imagine, after reading these things, I was filled with a very strong sense of purpose and direction. I wrote to Professor David Nutt, then at the University of Bristol, and I told him I wanted to study the brain on LSD and to see whether it looks like the dreaming brain. Anyway, David was kind enough to allow me to join his team, and then 4 years later I completed my PhD with him. And soon after that, I was lucky enough to begin some quite exciting brain imaging research with psychedelic drugs. First with psilocybin, which is the active ingredient in magic mushrooms, and more recently with LSD. Now, it's quite difficult to explain to people how psychedelic drugs work in the brain, and it's hard to try and do that in 18 minutes. So instead, what I'm going to do is show you a few pictures and give you a few analogies to think about. So what we're looking at here are communication pathways in the brain. Each line is a communication pathway between two different regions in the brain. And believe it or not, there's actually an equal number of lines or pathways in each of these two circles, yet they look very different, don't they? Essentially, what we're seeing is the normal brain on the left, where communication is confined to particular communities or cliques in the brain. So, for example, visual regions are talking mostly with other visual regions. This is what happens ordinarily. Then we look at the psychedelic brain on the right. There's much less of this cliquing and much more of an open, freer conversation going on across the brain. Another useful way to think of how psychedelics work in the brain is to think of what it's like to be an infant, experiencing everything as novel, feeling emotionally labile one minute you're laughing and the next you're crying, having a wildly overactive imagination, being mesmerized by the likes of Iggle Piggle or Macca Pacca. It's no coincidence, therefore, that if you look at how the brain develops as we develop from infancy into adulthood, and you compare that with how the brain changes under a psychedelic, what you see are kind of mirror opposites. So instead of a brain becoming more sophisticated as we develop, more finessed, but also more constrained, you have a brain that is simpler and freer in its functioning. The third useful way to think of how psychedelics work in the brain is to think of the dream state. Here we're looking at the effect of LSD on the brain. And what we're seeing is that much more of the brain contributes to the visual experience under LSD than it does ordinarily. And this effect actually correlated very strongly with the dreamlike visions that people reported under LSD when their eyes were closed. So we could think of both of these states, the dream state and the psychedelic state, as conditions where the brain becomes untethered or unanchored from incoming sensory information. And then in this state, it can operate in a more anarchic, freewheeling kind of way, conjuring up imagery from the very depths of the mind and the brain, rather than relying on sensory information coming into the brain.
Squarespace's creative tools let you design a unique, engaging website that fits your personal style and professional needs. Start your free website trial.
All right, and get my audio back. I think my audio is good. Let me double check on everything. Yep, my audio is good. Clicking that, raw, and switching back on that. All right, sweet. So yeah, that's another. You gotta watch the full thing. Please go check it out on TED Talks. Sorry for posting you guys this video, but it's just too important to talk about, the ability to be like in the stream state, the ability to see the world through kind of a younger version of your eyes, a more open world, a more accepting, more learning. And I've watched this happen with any client of any age. People experience this all the time through these experiences. And in doing so, that's where we find a lot of the potential for healing a lot of our traumas, our past. And also just simply finding a balance to life. It's not just about healing from your traumas and your past and all of the structure. Sometimes just dealing with day-to-day life, day-to-day working life can be difficult. And I find a lot of my clients gain a lot of perception to balancing their life, because far too many of us end up, living fully in the work mode, and even when we're away from work, we're still in that work mode, and that's one of the biggest things we try to teach a lot of our clients is like finding that present mode and not just being stuck in that work mode forever. We can't change if your boss is going to be an asshole or not. Like that's up to your boss. But I am impressed by how many people all of a sudden find empathy for their asshole boss. That's always a beautiful thing to see. But the thing is finding that balance so that way when you leave that workplace and you're driving down the road, that boss is no longer pulling from you. And you're in that present moment where you're driving down the road and you're like, oh man, I can't wait to get home. And then all of a sudden you get cut off. Deal with that in that moment. Be angry in that moment. Being angry or being upset is not something taboo. That's something you should never experience. It's a natural human emotion and you should naturally be able to experience that emotion. The key though is to make sure that you don't take that emotion into the next emotion. When you walk into the door and you're in your next present moment and you're home with friends eating some pizza or something like that, and it's really good, you're really enjoying it. Don't be stuck on, oh man, my boss is such an asshole today and I got cut off and my day is just going horrible. But you're eating pizza with your friends, you're having a great time. Be present in that moment. And that's one of the things we work on here. One of the things I am constantly trying to find balance on. And it's tough. We're building this business, we're building this industry from nothing. We're trying to navigate rules. We're very much part of the rule process, working with the state. We're trying to navigate how to make these businesses successful, how to even market them, how to talk about them, and it's a lot of stress. But it's like, we got to remind ourselves that even in that stress, we take that moment to be in that present moment. And that's why I'm presently with you guys right now, just to take a few moments every day, be present for a moment, do a live stream, spend an hour talking about our experiences, talking about what we're doing, listening to your stories, listening to what you guys have overcome, and spreading the message of just finding that balance. No matter how you find it, find that balance. Life is too short to be angry all the time. Life is too short to be lost. Life is too short to be upset. Life is too short to be scared. Life is too short to be happy. The point of life is to have all of these emotions, and to be able to overcome every single one of these emotions when we have them, and to be able to balance them in our lives, and that's what we're here to do. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in, checking this out. Now I can do the pitchy mode stuff. Don't forget to check us out at all the different things we're on. Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We have a few different ones that we're on. Don't forget to tune in to any of those. I'm trying to find the little pop-up here, and I can't find the little pop-up. No. All right, so we're just going to roll with the happy whale right there. Happy whale today. Okay. So, I want to thank you guys for coming in, checking us out, and thanks for tuning in. And find us again, and y'all have a good day. We're going to be rolling out. we live? Yes, we are.
Can I check it out right now?
Yep.
Where do I go to?
You can check it out on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. Happy 4th of July! Independence Day. What up, Cassandwich?
Let's make it a bit more filthy.
We're just vibing out for a sec.
2 more on the vape.
Look at that. 2 more on the vape. All right. We have a running bet today of how many people will be coming in because they forgot their vapes on the 4th. So we'll see who wins at the end of the day. So we're listening to some fun stuff. We're going to listen to this last song and then get this thing going. Yeah, it's going great. There's my camera, so I should probably talk to that. That thing right there, and not this thing. That thing. Right? We don't care. Resident Cadillacs in our dreams. I got my son in here in the building too. Enjoying life. Wife, say hi.
Hi. Hi.
We royals. It's not in our blood. And everything for us. We get a different kind of love. You guys want to know this is the EDC set for Valentino Khan? No. Timmy Trumpet. Yeah, Timmy Trumpet. Yeah, this one's killing it, man. I love it. This is woo, next level. You guys gotta check it out. And of course, you know, if you're watching this live, you will get to see this. If you're not watching it live, though, you probably can't even hear me because it's mute right now. So that's the point of tuning in live. And what's going on right here today is we're actually going to be going live regularly every day. I'm going to have you tune in, even when I'm just working on boring stuff, because what I want to show people is that we're here, we're not going nowhere, and we want to open up conversations. We'll talk a little bit more about that second. But first, the drop. Wait, TikTok dances. Fuck that shit. Yeah, one time we had some famous TikTok guys come up by our booth, and, and we were on the TikTok booth, and there was people that are next to our booth, and they were shooting the thing, and it was cool at first, but within a few seconds, it was pretty bad. So we're going to go ahead and turn this down. Boom, and now we're going to be live where we can actually keep this content. If you're watching us live, you'll see the nice green screen, and we'll do some post content on all the stuff we shoot so we can, you know, bring it up, put it up on our videos and stuff. But why are we here? Why are we going live? We are going live. Why?
Why?
Why? Why?
Why?
Why are we live? Well, first off, we're just alive.
First, yeah.
Second is, you know, we want to create a channel. We are a licensed, you know, I am a licensed psilocybin provider out here in Oregon, and we just want to express what psilocybin is and why it works and how it can help different people, and have these conversations, because these conversations can now be had. And so that's what we're doing. We're inviting people into these conversations. We also ask that we listen. You know, we're here to listen to one another, and we're allowing the space for other people to conversate. And we're asking even people who have opposing views to come in, sit down, and just listen to each other for a moment, you know? And that's our goal, and that's what we're going to do. Plus, we're just going to
be regularly live, because we got some great other pieces of content coming out where we're going to shoot some episodes of CybinSpace, where you guys can bring your questions and talk to a panel of experts on the subject. And that's what we're here to do. So this is going to be our first show. Today is, of course, Independence Day. You know, the bringing the independence for ourselves and for others. And we hope you guys are celebrating great Independence Day. You know, Cy, the one thing I was thinking about today with Independence Day was this. You know, the fact that, you know, we are celebrating this day today because we decided that we were not going to be paying taxes to those oppressors no more. We weren't going to allow them to quarter their troops into our homes or anything like that. And therefore we wrote the Declaration of Independence. And I think one thing that, you know, I got a lot of love for the troops. Lots of love for the troops. We do services for troops. I do services for troops often, and got mad respect, mad for love. But, you know, I gotta say, today is not the day for the troops. Uh-oh. Did I just say something controversial that's gonna get me kicked off in the first 5 seconds? Yes, I did, because realistically, this was the day that we gained independence ourselves. It was civilians, it was the people themselves that set it up. It was individual independence, and that is something to be celebrated and something that we need to know, because it's in that individual independence and that groups coming together to work together for that independence that we were able to establish this beautiful nation. And do I got a lot of love for the troops that formed together and went to fight with Washington? Yes. And they were all ragtag guys coming out of the fields and out of the woods to put it in for their freedom. And so, you know, we're paying respects to those guys. We still got a lot of love for the troops, but this is not Happy Troop Day. We celebrated those days recently, and this is Happy You Day. Celebrate your independence, your freedom, you know, and that's what we're here to do too. So let's see what we got going on. It's looking like our little chat feed is actually working. I love that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and when you're speaking, it's showing every word you basically said. That's just lit as fuck.
Nice. So we got some of our plugins working proper. Let's give some shout outs. What up, Cassandwich? Yes, you gotta come visit sometime. We miss you. When you coming to visit, you gotta come by. You know, if I put my computer right there, I think that would actually help me focus more on that. That's going to happen. Not this round, because I'm going to have to unplug it, and that wouldn't be very fun. But yeah, so we also have another screen too that we live with here. We're going to go into, this is our chatting screen, so you guys can actually see your feed. And then we have the live screen. So, the live screen, I got me a whale of a moment here. And we have the other camera on this one, and I think you guys are gonna really enjoy this right here. We have a little bit of some sound effects. I don't know if they're actually getting played. Oh no, you actually have to unhook right there. You heard it through the live.
Through the womp womp.
Yeah. We got some love, you know, and then of course I am full of just Right. But we also got our little buddy here who's gonna help us celebrate our wins and our losses. We got the dancing mushroom in the house. You know, what's a dancing mushroom? The dancing mushroom. Yeah, but sometimes the mushrooms are sad. And that's okay.
It's okay.
Because we'll be there. I know, so cheesy. But hey, that's what we got. We got some cheesy funness to play with as well. So let's get that screen over here. Oh, yeah.
Bro really said womp womp.
Womp, 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 womp. So, yeah. So we got some fun feeds. You can also check out our Tiny link, which will get you access to some merchandise that we have. And all of links and our websites for our sponsors, trips. Oregon is one of our sponsors, along with Soulfire Mushrooms. We also have a couple nonprofit sponsors as well. PATA and PFA are helping put this thing on so we can keep these conversations open and free.
Alive.
Yes, yes. So, Cy.
Yeah.
Tell me about the 4th of July you remember.
Oh, a lot of them are pretty much chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you set up a whole experiment type of deal.
Oh yeah, of course that was gonna be the memory.
Connecting these things together, and we set it off, and it went everywhere. A lot of them tipped over. We had bottle rockets flying at us. Ian got shot.
We had a bottle.
Yeah.
Yes, you're calling me on it. It was so true. We did, and we had a mortar, and the mortar tipped over,
and the mortar
and
boom.
Yeah. And I used to wire them all together, and yeah, they would definitely pop, and we
legit like every 4th of July has been chaotic for me. Like something goes wrong. I don't know why.
See, I want to point out there, that's that default bow network. You know, I caused some trauma, and I'm sorry. And now every 4th of July has been chaotic since then.
Yeah, I'm scared of fireworks now.
Nice.
I'm not.
Cy, I'm going to have you take the camera for 2 seconds while I go just say hello to a friend of mine real fast, and then we're going to be right back.
Go help it out. Go make some money.
Yep, you just say hi.
Welcome to the live. So yeah, I got blasted on with fireworks. It hurt, you know? That stuff hurt for real. PTSD moments. You know what can help with that though? Mushrooms. Yes, sir. Probably look ugly right now. Ugly as fuck, but that's okay. I'm so happy we got live going. So now I can actually be on this shit and actually do something like market and fucking play video games. I'll play video games. I'll get an extra camera and just set it up and show you guys how cracked I am at video games. I don't play like Fortnite or nothing like that. I play like Modern Warfare, some hard games, Battlefield. Battlefield's my shit. I go off on Battlefield. I have to see about that. Minecraft, I play Minecraft as well.
That's the map, Dad.
Yeah, we're back.
Where are you, Dad?
I'm playing, I'm coming outside.
I think the dinosaurs.
I'm gonna come outside with you.
Ah! I died.
Oh no!
Start over again. Again?
I'm on my way.
I died.
Don't be killing them.
Hurry
Get
up.
inside! Run inside! Ah, I can't wait for him. Run, run, run. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, the champion. Come on. Run to me.
Ow.
I got cookies.
I want cookies.
Come on. Come inside. It's safe inside here.
No, I'm just clowning. We got a couple.
Okay. We're safe inside.
Let's see if this works too. I have this.
Okay. Do you want me to give you a sword and stuff?
Uh-huh.
Okay, come on, pick out.
I want the power sword like you.
Okay. Come on downstairs.
No. It's too bad he's knocking on the door.
We'll figure out how to make a power sword.
What was this say? Is that door has the back
Okay.
door?
Here you go. Let's see here.
Got you.
Power sword.
Let me make what? Let me check this. See? Hey, Dad.
Hey, Barton.
How you get stuff, Dad?
I gotta make it.
You
Yep.
make real stuff and crystals
We're gonna have to go get some diamonds and stuff.
to the mine.
Here, let me get you a sword though.
Let me check our thing. Let's go up for train cards. Take a train trip. Let me take those train cards, Dad.
Okay.
Let's take a train card. You have to use track to make train cards, Dad. Hey, Dad.
Here, do you need some cookies?
Mhm.
Here's you some cookies.
I want that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's keep on. Let's go.
Here, you want a sword?
A diamond sword. A purple one.
Here is a sword for you.
Let's go.
Okay, hang on. I gotta make me a sword.
We have to use crystal, Dad.
Okay.
We have to use blue stuff.
Okay, let me see.
That you make spider light with that.
I need some sticks.
You sticks make spider light. Let's have to put on my shoe. That colors the light over. I'm gonna erase this stuff. Now I'll put on my shoe first.
Okay, I'm making some sticks.
Yeah, I never make that before. That's sticky a little bit. Yeah. It's this button. I get much beer. Hello, Dad.
Hey, Barton.
Where are you?
I'm downstairs just grabbing my stuffs.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, Barton.
Where was the hat, Dad? Where was the hat, Dad?
Where's the what?
Where was? I'm going to the high school, Dad. I'm going to the high school, Dad.
You want to go to the high school?
On the train.
Okay.
Ride.
Let me go with you, because remember, this is survival. Here, come pick this stuff up.
Which one?
Right here.
For your stuff?
Yep, come pick this stuff up.
Let me
Right here.
This is my stuff.
And then come upstairs with me and we'll put it in the sorter.
This is mine.
You can have it.
This is mine. We'll make a wall. Guys.
Okay.
I got the sword.
We'll go make a wall at the hospital. Okay.
Then we'll have the secret base and not go all the way downtown under the road.
I need to find a book.
I got one. And I got one. I put it somewhere, Dad.
Yeah?
I put it somewhere, Dad.
Okay.
Let me
find my book.
I got a book.
I need to.
I got a train card.
Is there,
I got one
we need
book.
a.
I got one book, Dad. I got books, Dad.
You got books?
I think I got them in my inventory. Please help me get the book.
No, you don't have the right book. We gotta go to, we gotta go find the XP place.
A library?
Uh-huh.
Let's take a train.
Let's go this way.
Let's take the train.
Let's take a train? Okay.
Let's
There might be a place in the high school. We could go to the high school. You want to go to the high school? Okay.
Which one?
Which one's the high school? It is the green one.
The green one. Oh, let's go to the green one. The pink one's broken down.
The pink one's broken down?
But I want to say I want to be on this one.
Okay.
Oh, and not need a train. I got train already.
Bye.
I got train.
Come on.
I want to be.
You with me?
Oh.
Okay.
It's going faster.
Oh, we're going the same speed.
I'm going faster.
Whee!
On top trains go slow too.
Uh-huh.
I almost hit you.
Bam. Okay. Let's go upstairs.
Let's go upstairs. Let's go to the high school.
Okay.
Go in the high school.
Going to the high school.
Let's go inside that. Okay, where's the dino tracks? That's food. I found food at the high school.
Oh.
These are our school books.
Cool. Oh, there's a dinosaur in here. Watch out, there's a raptor. Watch out, get your sword out. Get the raptor, don't let it get you. Oh. Get all the health. Get all that. Yeah, there you go. Get all that.
Let's go upstairs.
Okay. Make sure you eat a cookie. Remember, this is survival. We could die.
Let's go to this school.
Okay.
Let's go to this classroom.
Oh.
This classroom's scary. This one is enemy.
I'm the teacher. I want you to sit behind your desk.
Oh.
Are you sitting down?
I'm not got no chair.
Time to say your ABCs. A.
Get that now.
I said say A.
It's a yay, teacher. How you give me?
Oh, here's cookies.
I want cookies.
Yeah, there's cookies.
I want cookies too.
Oh yeah. We get a cookie. But remember, we can't take all the cookies because you know, we do have to replace the cookies. Oh, it's baked potatoes, not cookies. Where's the library? We gotta find the library. Oh, look at this. This is the gym.
I will be the stager.
Okay.
I be the stager. You be the person.
Oh, look at this.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
We found some emeralds.
I'm ladies and gentlemen.
And a diamond
down
sword.
to you got chairs.
Okay.
I got put chairs out. Oh, I now have no more chairs. Yeah, I got no more chairs, Dad.
Alright, well, let's
I got all the chairs.
keep going.
Let's go upstairs.
I want to find the library. I think the library's back here. We should stick together so the dinosaurs don't kill us.
I got 3 more hearts left. I got 2 more hearts left.
I think I see something in that building over there. In the brown building. Shall we go look? Oh, there's dinosaurs right there.
Okay, let's get them.
Okay.
That one's scary.
I don't know. Oh! He smashed you!
Where are we? Where are we?
I got your stuff.
You fall back. You can save me.
I got your stuff.
Let's go down.
Oh, there's a little guy trying to get me.
Which one?
I
The
got
bad
it.
guy?
Yeah, I got all your stuff though.
Let's go. I want to go in the green one.
Hmm.
I want to go in
Oh, this is the cafeteria. Are you coming back?
I want to be the cafeteria, man.
Okay.
I'm going back into high school.
You meet me back at the high school.
Oh, no, one of the green train says. I know. I found it.
It's chickens.
This one's gone. Is there a chicken by
Yeah.
the cafeteria?
They got some chickens right here.
Chicken? A chicken's a chef?
Yeah.
I found the dino statue. everywhere from there. I'm gonna put it right here, the nose of the train station is.
Building C.
Let me get the train card.
Okay.
You please help. You got my train card.
Where's the train card?
You got that. I just died.
You gotta grab another one.
And I not got it. I need the train station.
Here, I'll show you.
To my injured card?
Okay, watch this.
I'll get the much bigger.
Where's your... You go over here. Yeah, the train cards right there. You see them?
Oh. But that's wrong.
Yeah, you just gotta write it.
Let me press the button.
Okay.
Me.
You push the button. I
Let me
found the library, I think.
Let's go to the. I have to eat lunch first.
Aww.
I have to eat lunch first.
Oh, there it is.
I have to eat lunch first.
Okay.
That's the library quest.
That's the library.
That's the library quest.
Mm-hmm.
I have to enter the wrong train. It's so long. That's a fun one. Well, I got off at the track. I'm very late to the high school.
But this is not a very good library. It's not very strong. We might need to go to the other side of town. I'll meet you back at the subway.
You please protect me, Dad.
Huh?
You please protect me, Dad.
Protect you?
Give me the sword.
Yep, here you go.
Give my stuff
Here's
back.
your sword. What are you getting attacked by? Did you get your sword? What do we get attacked by?
Right up there.
Oh, it must have been a flying thing, huh?
You get airplane. You get up train.
Okay, did you get your sword?
Let's go.
Okay, here, do you need anything else?
Fly.
Okay.
You got wings?
I don't have wings, nope.
Nope.
No, we should go to the XP thing. And that's where they got the best. Uh-oh.
Is it wrong? Is it wrong, Dad? Hey, Dad.
Huh.
It's a dino.
There you go.
It's a dino statue in the ticket clock, Dad. It's in the ticket in the retro ticket clock. It's in the retro ticket clock.
There you go.
It's in the retro.
You ready to hop in?
It's in the no. I had to go into high school first.
Oh, what for? I got all your stuff.
I had to sneak up on the walkie-talkie on you.
You guys better not come here.
Let's go upstairs.
I think I need to get some sleep.
Sleep?
Yeah, I think my character needs to go to bed.
Huh, Dad?
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go into high school.
Okay.
Let's go into high school. And I know
They're gonna be our target, alright?
high school. Let's go into the principal's office, Dad. Let's go upstairs, Dad.
Okay. Hang on, there's a storage room here. I want to see what's in it.
I'll be upstairs right there.
Oh, I found some diamonds and some stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah!
Dad,
I found us a bunch of stuff.
I found the entrance of high school. I got the gym too. I
Nice.
got 2 seats, Dad.
Nice.
I never got all the seats yet.
Man, this is a come up.
And this is one upstairs.
All right.
I will sneak